Good morning my dear students. So welcome to biology class, and today we will be starting about a new chapter which is known as absorption by roots. So what do we mean by this particular term? What are the available in this particular chapter, or what we are going to learn in this particular chapter? So we will be going through it. This is class 10 and we are following strictly conscious biology part 2 class 10 for ICC schools. Okay, so the chapter absorption by root. Now we all know the structure of a plant, right? We all have came across the structure of a plant, and we all know that what happens when we do this particular how xylem works, how phloem works, what are the process, how do plant get the nutrients from the soil. We all know that, right? Now while we all know that, we also know that this particular occurrence happens through the roots, definitely, because plant is attached to the soil and it cannot move like us. So what happens, the roots gets its nutrient and water from the soil and it transport it to the different part of the whole plant. Okay, so we will be quickly going to the chapter. This is a very interesting chapter, and I am following this particular book, this one book. You all also have this one. So this particular chapter is very interesting, and you need to understand, you need to learn the things from this particular chapter. So firstly, coming to absorption by root, the process involved. So what are the processes? We will be learning in details about this absorption by roots. The root not only fixes the plant in the soil, giving it support, but also but the most important and life supporting function of the root is to absorb water and mineral nutrient from the soil and conduct them into the stem for supply to the leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. So definitely, apart from giving support and rigidity to the plant, the roots plays an important and vital role, that is they carry out or they transport the particular nutrients and water from the soil to the various part of the plant. So quickly we will be going to these points. These are very easy one, so I don't think that there is much more to discuss about this, but yet anyway, need of water and minerals for the plant. So students, what are the needs and what are the needs of water and mineral for the plant? Now if I ask you all know this, right? So what are they? Beside being a constituent of protoplasm, water is needed inside the plant body for four purposes. What are they? Photosynthesis, transpiration, transportation, and mechanical stiffness. Okay, so photosynthesis, we all know water is used up by the green leaves as a raw material in the synthesis of glucose. Now students, I will recommend that you please open your book and keep it in front of you, so that along with this video lecture you can go through this particular book, particular line by line. It would be very easy for you to understand, and when I will be doing board work, if there is any, then you will please listen to me as well as watch this one, that what I am doing, and make a note in your biology copy. Okay, so photosynthesis, water is used up in the green leaves as a raw material in the synthesis of glucose. Transpiration, a large quantity of water gets evaporated as water vapor during transpiration for cooling in hot water, for producing a suction force, etc. So what is transpiration? The loss of water from the green leaves is known as transpiration. We all know about this, yet this is a revision one. If you have any concept uncleared or it was not cleared in your previous classes, so you will get it cleared by this particular chapter. Okay, now transportation of a substance in water solution from the roots upward into the shoot or mineral salt, or from leaves to other part, that is sugar, etc. And this is transportation. Transportation means movement of the particular thing from one part to another part. It is known as transportation. Okay, mechanical stiffness, water provides turgidity, fully decentrated conditions when necessary for stiffness of plant tissues. So what happened? Turgidity is the mechanical strength which is available inside the particular plant. Okay, mineral nutrients required by the plant are absorbed from the soil by the roots only. Some of these nutrients are absorbed as salt, that is nitrate, phosphate and sulfates, and some simply as ions, that is potassium, calcium, magnesium, chlorine, etc. These elements are required as a constituent of cell and cell organelle, as well as in the synthesis of variety of compounds or enzymes within the particular cell. Okay. Now we will be going to characteristics of root for absorbing water. Okay. So what are the characteristics of roots for absorbing water? We will be please look into here. We will be going in detailed. Okay. So what are the characteristics of root? The very first point would be surface area of root is enormous. The second point would be root hair. And the third point, it is root hairs have thin walls. So these are particularly 3 points that we will be studying, that what is the characteristics or what are the characteristics of root. See, the first one is surface area of root. Okay, why surface area of root is very much important? See, we all know, have you ever went to any of the field in your park or in any of the nearby, just pick up some of the grasses from the soil. What you will find my dear student, is that it contains a structure of roots inside the particular soil. Now what happens if we see a plant on the upper part, it may be only this much small, but the roots underground the soil is very much high in surface area, but they stays generally in a coiled formation. Okay, now this increases the surface area of root, which is enormous in nature. Whenever the surface area of root would be enormous in nature, it will provide, see, the more the surface area would be, the more would be the absorption of the materials, of the nutrients of the water, right? So this plays a very important and vital role for surface area of roots. Second one is root hair. See, if these are the roots, we are taking it as an example, if these are the roots, then each of the roots have small cilia like projection. We have already learned about this term. Now what are they? They are known as root hair. They are known as root hair. Now these root hairs particularly adds more surface area to the root. This particularly root hair adds more surface area to the roots, and they can go much more deeper in the soil and can absorb the huge amount of nutrients and minerals, salts, water, etc. from the particular soil. Okay, also root hairs have thin cell wall. See, this thin cell wall, we all know, suppose if this is a cell, okay, or if this is a cell, we all know that cell wall is the primary structure. Cell wall is the primary structure which is the first barrier. Okay, now see, for nutrients, suppose these are nutrients, okay, and water molecules. So for entry of them, the first barrier that they need to cross is the cell wall, right? Now we all know plants have cell wall and animals do not have a prominent cell wall. Anyway, as they have the cell wall, so these particular nutrients needs to enter the particular cell so that it can get absorbed and it can get transport to various part of the plant, right? So the cell wall need to be thin. because this plays a very important and vital role during absorption of these particular nutrients and minerals within a particular cell. Okay, so this is all about this one, yet I am going through your book to make you understand a bit more proper. Surface area of root is enormous. It is a common experience that even a small garden plant such as blossom, when gently uprooted from the soil, shows a thick bunch of rootlets or branch roots. When carefully examined, each rootlet would show hundreds of root hairs. If all the root hairs of this plant were laid end to end, they would have covered the length of many kilometers. Okay, so that I have already explained. The second one is root hairs contain cell sap of a higher concentration than the surrounding water. Okay, now how does this particular concentration helps? See, if we all know, right, we all know that difference of pressure, we all know about difference of pressure. What happens? See, if suppose the pressure inside this particular room is higher and the pressure outside the room is lower, what will happen? Pressure will try to maintain or to come into an equilibrium. What is equilibrium? Equilibrium is into a equal pressure level. Okay, so whenever I will be opening a particular door or a particular window, what will happen? The pressure will get into equilibrium. Okay, now what happens in cell? See, root hairs are the existence of the outer or epidermal cell of the root. They also contain large vacuoles filled with a solution called cell sap. So what is cell sap? Cell sap is the solution which is contained inside the vacuoles. Some salts are dissolved in, and the cell sap therefore usually has a concentration higher than that of the surrounding water. This characteristic is an important requirement to draw in water from outside, that is the occurrence of osmosis, which is described later. So we will be studying about osmosis in the later part of this particular chapter. Root hairs have thin cell wall. Like all plant cell, root hairs also have two outer layers, a cell wall and a cell membrane. The cell wall is thin and permeable. It allows the movement of water molecules and dissolved substances freely in and out of the cell. The cell membrane is very thin and semi-permeable, which means that it allows water molecules to pass through but not the larger molecules of the dissolved salt. The secret of absorption of water from the soil by the roots lies mainly in these characteristics. So, as I have already told you, root hairs, they have thin cell wall, and along with cell wall, what they have another one, we all know, that is cell membrane. The first outer ring is the cell wall, the second one is cell membrane. Okay, now this helps in particular process of absorption. Now the next part we will be going to absorption and conduction of water and minerals. Okay, here particularly we will be studying about various definitions and various new terms. So my dear students, you need to understand and you need to clearly remember all the things along with the concept that how this particular process are going on. Okay, so we will be studying about absorption and conduction of water and minerals. The entire mechanism of absorbing water and minerals from the soil by the roots is movement through the thickness of the roots and subsequently its upward conduction through the stem is a result of 5 main phenomena. So what are the 5 phenomena that we will be studying here? Okay, so I am rubbing this one. Now what are the 5 main phenomena? The first one is imbibition. The second one is diffusion. The third one is osmosis. The fourth one is active transport, and the fifth one is turgidity and flaccidity. Okay, so we'll be learning about this term, that what are they, what is happening in this particular place, and in detail. Okay, so five main phenomena, what are they? Number one is imbition, second one is diffusion, third one is osmosis, fourth one is active transport, and the fifth one is turgidity and flaccidity. Okay, so imbition, what do we mean by imbition? Imbition is a phenomena by which the living or dead plant cells absorbs water by surface attraction. Okay, so imbition is the phenomena by which the living or the dead plant cell absorb water by surface attraction. Okay, substances which are made up of cellulose or proteins are hydrophilic, that is, they have strong affinity towards water. They imbibe water or moisture and swells up. Example, dry seed wooden doors swell up on contact with water or on exposure to moisture. Due to imbibitional pressure, seed coat ruptures in case of germinating seeds. It is also an important force in the ascent of sap. Okay, so imbition is due to this particular surface attraction. Okay, so please do not get confused or do not get what are they or how are they going. These are the key points. Imbition is due to surface attraction. Okay, now the second one, that is diffusion. What is diffusion? Diffusion is the free movement of the molecules of a substance, may be solute or solvent, gas, liquid, from the region of higher concentration to a region of the lower concentration when the two are in direct contact. So what do we mean by that? See, diffusion is the free movement of molecules, that is, all the molecules will be moving freely. Okay, all the molecules will be moving freely. It can be in liquid, it can be in solid, or it can be in gases. I am giving you an example, you will be very much clear with the gas part. Okay, from the region, see, this is very important, from the region of the higher concentration to the region of the lower concentration. Okay, when both the bodies are in contact. So this is very important. Diffusion from higher concentration to lower concentration, and it would be in direct contact. It would be in direct contact. See, the example of diffusion, all of you in your entire lifestyle or life, or during playing, it would be very much exciting example for you all. During playing Holi, okay, or during playing with colors, what we do? We go to the market, bought a small pouch or small container of color which is powdery in form, right? Now what we do is, when we take a bucket of water and mix that particular water color into the water, does it happens that at a once the whole bucket of water get colored? No. What happens when we just put it down into the bucket of water, it slowly goes away from that higher concentration to the lower concentration and fills the whole bucket of water, right? This is one of the prime example of diffusion. Another example of diffusion would be very much clear to you all, that you all have used agarbattis, right? You all have used agarbattis, or what we call in Bengali dhoop. We all have used that. So what happens? See, in any one of the corner of the room or of the house, if we just light up one of the agarbattis, what happened? That particular smell gets roamed in all the house or in all part of the house or in all part of the room. Now how do that happen? That is, when the particular agarbatti is burning, what happens? It causes a higher concentration part in the air. Now due to the phenomena of this diffusion, it get diffuses out to the entire room or to the entire house. Am I clear to you all? Okay. So here is an example experiment given. You please try this at your home or just give it a read. Whatever I have made you understand, it is nothing outside of that. Okay. Let us see how definition of diffusion applies in this case. Okay, and this one you please go through it. The next part is osmosis and osmotic pressure. See, student, this one is very much important and questions are going to come on osmosis and osmotic pressure. Okay, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from their region of higher concentration to their region of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, now then what happens? Firstly, it happens in water molecule. Okay, it happens in water molecules. Now from a region of higher concentration, same as diffusion, higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, up to this part it is okay. See, higher concentration and lower concentration is same for diffusion, same for osmosis, but diffusion can take part in any of the part, that is, it can take part in solid, liquid and gas, but osmosis is only for water molecules. It is same from higher concentration to lower concentration, but through a semi permeable membrane. This is very important, that is through a semi permeable membrane. Okay, this is very important, and this particularly water molecule, this one is also very much important. See, this water molecule and semi permeable membrane, this is very much important. Okay, this defines osmosis. Moving forward, what we have? So what happens with the definition of the osmosis? Osmosis is the movement of water molecules from their region of higher concentration, that is dilute solution with a low solute concentration, to the region of lower concentration, concentrated solution with higher solute concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. An important thing to note in the above definition is that the water molecules is that only the water molecules from their higher concentration, whether in dilute solution or in pure solution, to the lower concentration in stronger solution or in just solution in related to pure water. So it is only the movement of water. With reference to a cell, osmosis can be either inward or outward depending on the extent of concentration of the solution surrounding it. Now see, osmosis with surroundings to a cell, it can be inward osmosis or outward osmosis, that is, it may happen that water molecules comes in or goes out. Okay, now what is endoosmosis and exoosmosis? See, endoosmosis is the inward osmosis and exoosmosis is the outward osmosis. Okay, endo means inward, is the inward diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane when the surrounding solution is less concentrated. This tends to swell up the cell. Okay, now endoosmosis causes swelling up of the cell. What is exoosmosis? Is the outer diffusion of water through a semi-permeable membrane when the surrounding solution is more concentrated. This tends to a cause of shrinkage of the cell, that is, the cells get shrinked up. Okay, now the experiment, go through this. The three main conclusion from this experiment, what we will be finding here is that the experimental setup, water, some water of a beaker has passed through the cellophane paper to enter the thistle funnel. Okay, this one is that is, see, Now what you have a question over here that my students ask me that, sir, what is this particular semi permeable membrane, or what is it? See, semi permeable membrane means a membrane which will allow selective molecules to pass. Okay, it will allow selective molecules to pass from inside of the cell to outside of the cell, or the vice versa. Okay, so this is known as semi permeable membrane, and here we have taken, in this particular experiment, we have taken cellophane paper as a semi permeable membrane. Okay, now it depends, there are many membranes available, and in our body or in the plant the membranes are definitely natural and they are made up of the molecules. Okay, see, these are the experiments given here. You please go through these particular experiments. For any of the confusion, please ask me. Whatever I have explained you, there is nothing beyond that in this particular experiments. Okay, so we'll be going to how long can osmosis continue. This is very important. Just like a question that I have asked you all, how long can cell division continue? Same here, how long can osmosis continue? Theoretically, osmosis should continue until the concentration of water molecules become equal, that is isotonic on both the side of the membrane. In experiment shown in figure 4.4, the column of sugar solution in the 3-cell funnel keeps rising upward with an influx of water from the beaker and within it. The height and the weight of this column of a solution would also increase. Such an increase in the height and weight of the rising column reduce further osmosis. A stage will reach when no osmosis occurs, even if the concentration of the water molecule is not the same on two sides of the membrane. In this state of equilibrium, the water molecules from the beaker tends to force upward through the membrane, but the weight or the pressure from the above holds them downward. So what happens is that theoretically osmosis should continue as long as the concentration level should be same, or that is known as isotonic, but in practical case it doesn't happen. As if you go through this particular experiments what are given in this previous of this particular chapter, you will find that while doing the experiment we will found that after a certain time, after a certain height rise of height column in the particular funnel, we will find even if the concentration is not equal, osmosis it stops. Why so? Because due to the pressure or the air pressure which is acting, that holds the osmosis to a pause position, and it doesn't happen until both the concentration of the solution remains same. Okay, so what is osmotic pressure? Now we will be going to a new term. What is osmotic pressure? Osmotic pressure is the minimum pressure that must be exerted to prevent the passage of the pure solvent into the solution when the two are separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Or simply, osmotic pressure of a solution is the measure of its tendency to take in water by osmosis. So see, osmosis pressure is the solution of a solution is the measure of its tendency, that how much it will take in water is known, that how much is known as, or that particular measure is known as osmotic pressure. Okay, now I have already told you isotonic, what are they, what is tonicity? We will be learning about this. What is tonicity? Relative concentration of the solution that determines the direction and extent of diffusion is called tonicity. Okay, so the relative concentration of the solution that determines the direction and extent of diffusion, that is how much diffusion will occur and in which direction diffusion will occur. Will it be inward or will it be outward? Okay, this particular thing is known as tonicity. Based on the solution can be of three types: isotonic, hypotonic and hypertonic substance. So what are they? We will be learning about this. Isotonic, iso means same, tonus means tension or concentration. The relative concentration of water molecules and the solute on either side of the cell membrane is the same. In such a solution, there is no net movement of water molecules across the cell membrane. So whenever the concentration on both the side of the particular cell will be same, it will be known as isotonic condition, and here no osmosis will take place. Here no osmosis will take place. Okay. Now what is hypotonic? Hypotonic is a condition of the solution outside the cell has a lower solute concentration than the fluid inside the cell. As a result, water molecules from the outside wall move into the cell. Okay, from outside it will come inside, and it is known as endoosmosis. Endoosmosis will occur over here. And what is hypertonic? Hypertonic. Hypertonic is that from inside to outside water molecule will move, and thus it is known as exoosmosis. So my dear student, please do not confuse among these terms, because 90% of the students get confused of the terms, and during exam in true or false or in match the column, they just, or in fill in the blanks, they just write the opposite one. So please try to remember these particular terms. The result may be as follows: cell shapes and size remains unchanged. The solution outside is isotonic. When it will be isotonic, cell shape and size will remain unchanged. Cell shrinks in size and loses shape. The solution outside the hypertonic, that is during hypertonic solution, the cell will shrink, and during hypotonic solution the cell will get enlarged or even burst, that it will grow up. Okay. In the case of plant cell, another striking features to determine the behavior of the cell when subjected to various varying external fluid environments. This features is the rigidity of the cell wall, which resists bulging and projecting and projects the dedicated cellular parts inside. The phenomena related to this behavior are turgidity, plasmolysis, flaccidity. Okay, we will be learning about this particular thing. Okay, now this completes the particular term osmosis. Now we will be going to active transport. What is active transport? So now we will be going to active transport. So what is active transport? See, active transport is the passage of a substance, salt or ion, from its lower to higher concentration through a living cell membrane using energy from the cell. So what happens? Just look here. First it is the substances. Okay. Now the second is, see, diffusion higher to lower, osmosis higher to lower, but here it will be lower concentration to higher concentration. Okay. Now through what? In osmosis we have seen semi-permeable membrane. See, semi-permeable membrane can be living or can be non-living, as in case of the experiments that we have already seen, we are taking non-living semi-permeable membrane, but here it will be living membrane. It will be living cell membrane, and the most important part is energy. Energy is the most important part. See, we can say that active transport is just the opposite of diffusion. Okay, we can say that it is just the opposite of diffusion. Now my dear students, see, okay, just you look through this particular thing and I am going on. So my dear student, please understand that from higher concentration movement of the molecules, be it anything, from higher concentration to lower concentration, it is very easy and it does not requires any kind of energy. Okay, but when the reverse thing happen, that is from lower concentration to higher concentration, there for movement of this particular molecules, it needs a particular force. Okay, now this force is being given through the particular energy. Okay, through consumption of particular energy. Thus we can say active transport to be the opposite of diffusion. Okay, certain nutrients such as ions of nitrates, sulfates, potassium, zinc, manganese, etc. cannot pass through the cell membrane of the root cell easily. This is because their concentration is higher inside the root cell. and it is so maintained in order to develop osmotic pressure for absorbing water. In this way, the concentration gradient of these ions is opposite to that of diffusion. In the other word, to obtain them, the ions have to be forcefully carried inward from a region of their lower concentration outside to the region of their higher concentration inside, and this energy requires supply of the cell in the form of ATP. Now we already know what is ATP. ATP is adenosine triphosphate. So energy is used in the form of ATP. Energy is used in the form of ATP. Okay, here in active transport. So I hope up till this it is very clear to you what is active transport. Now what is passive transport? Just a small point, what is passive transport? Passive transport is nothing different from diffusion. Passive refers to the requiring no input of the energy. This is the free movement of the molecules from their higher concentration to their lower concentration. Thus we can also say diffusion to be passive transport. Okay, and the last one is the turgidity and flaccidity. What are they? See, okay, before that look into table 4.1 of page number 44. Okay, you will find the differences between diffusion, osmosis and active transport. Please go through it thoroughly. Okay, now we will be studying about turgidity and flaccidity. See, every living plant cells directly or indirectly is in contact with fluid. The root hairs in particular are surrounded by soil water. All such cells are subjected to osmosis and the water continues to enter as long as the cell sap is more concentrated than that the surrounding fluids. When a cell reaches a state where it cannot accommodate any more water, that is fully disintegrated, it is called turgid and the condition is called turgidity. So when no more movement of water molecules from outside to inside happens, that is known as turgidity. So turgidity is the particular extent where a cell can no more take in water from the outer surface. Okay, so that particular cell is called turgid and this phenomena is known as turgidity. Okay, when a cell is turgid, its wall is stretched under pressure from inside and in turn it passes the cell content towards the center of the cell. The pressure of the cell content on the cell wall is called the turgor pressure. So the pressure which is contained in the cell is known as turgor pressure and the pressure exerted by the cell wall on the cell content is known as wall pressure. So students, do not get confused among turgor pressure and cell pressure. If at any time the cell wall is unable to bear the turgor pressure, it ruptures and the cell contents burst out. This is exactly what happens when the fruits and vegetables sometimes burst. When the turgid, the cell is in somewhat balanced state. No more water is entering or leaving it. Its turgor pressure counterbalance the wall pressure and therefore there is no further absorption of water even through the concentration of the solute inside the cell may be greater than that of the outside cell. Okay, now what is plasmolysis and flaccidity? See, this is turgidity, what I have already told. Now what is plasmolysis and flaccidity? See, when a living cell such as the cell of leaf of an aquatic plant is placed in fresh water, it remains in fully disintegrated condition. Its plasma membranes remain in close contact with the cell wall and pressure against it, just like a rubber bladder of the football pushing against the leather casing. In this plant cell now is kept in 5% salt solution for a few minutes, it will lose its disintegrated appearance, the cytoplasm will shrink and the plasma membrane will withdraw from the cell wall. The shrinkage from the cell wall is called the plasmolysis and the cell in the state are said to be in limp or flaccid condition. Flaccidity is the reverse of turgidity. If however a plasmolysed cell is written into water before it is dead, its protoplasm again swells up, pressing tight against the cell wall. The recovery of the reversal of the plasmolysis is called deplasmolysis. See, what happens in turgidity, water molecules cannot enter because it is fully in a balanced state. In flaccidity, what happens, it is the reverse of this particular turgidity, okay, where the cell shrinks. Now when the cell shrinks, before the particular cell dies, if we again keep it in a concentration solution, then what happen, the phenomena which again bring back that particular cell into its original shape and size, it is known as deplasmolysis. Okay, you can understand that plasmolysis is a result of outflow of water from the cell, and plasmolysis is a result of its re-entry or re-entry of the water molecule. Okay, so the term defined, turgidity is a state of cell in which the cell wall is rigid and stretched by an increase in the volume of vacuoles due to absorption of water. The cell is then said to be turgid. Plasmolysis is the condition of the cytoplasm from the cell wall caused due to withdrawal of the water from the place in strong or hypertonic solution. And flaccidity, flaccidity is the condition in which the cell content is shrunken to the cell is no more tight and the cell is said to be flaccid. I hope up till this it is clear to you, right? So we will be going quickly to the use of turgidity of the plants. Turgidity provides rigidity to soft tissues such as the leaves. It gives a particular shape and rigidity. Second one, turgor pressure helps to push through the hard ground. Due to this particular turgor pressure, the roots get pushed to the ground. Turgor in root cells build up the root pressure. Now this turgor pressure builds up the particular root pressure. Okay. Number 4 point, turgor in the opening and closing of the stomata. Okay, now we all know that green leaves, in just below the green leaves there are stomatal pores. Now these stomatal pores get opened or closed due to this particular turgor pressure. And turgor movement is the rapid dropping of the leaves of sensitive plant. Okay, we all know there are some touch me not plants or sensitive plants which when we touch, what happens, it gets dropped down. This is due to this particular turgor pressure. Okay, so I hope this is, up till this it is clear to you. See, I have tried my best. You need to go through this particular video lecture, along with that your book open and your copy for making the notes. I hope this chapter will be very much clear to you by the end. Now today we have completed up till these 5 points: imbition, diffusion, osmosis, active transport, and turgidity and flaccidity. Okay, on the next day we will be moving forward with the root pressure. I hope it is clear to you. So please study hard, take care of yourself, take care of your family. Global pandemic is going outside. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. We will be moving on forward to our next part in the next class. Okay, thank you.